T minus 3, 2, 1, ignition.
What you know about this life? Yeah, just relax, baby, get high. Yeah, you're on your way to the best night ever. No time.
All right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Week 9 recap. Since I'm already kind of a lock to get the winnings or the prize for my first recap, I'm not going to put too much effort into this one, but I thought I'd do something similar to what I did last year, where I kind of went team by team and just found some kind of interesting stats or pointed out some things that you as managers have done horribly or got extremely lucky at. So I kind of did the same. The guys at the bottom, a lot more material than the teams at the top, but I tried to rag on everyone fairly equally. So I'm not going to go by record, because as everyone knows, record this year does not mean anything. I'm going to go off points for. So at the bottom is Andrew. You're standing at 3 and 6. Your point differential between your points for and your points allowed is negative 149. Points for is 1175, which is the lowest. So before I rag on what you've done horribly this year, I will say, give your props. You made some good trades. Tannehill's been awesome. Derrick Henry obviously is awesome. Also drafting DK Metcalf. That was a really good pick in hindsight. And then also CeeDee Lamb, at least before that got hurt, he was looking good, but I think that's still a good pick, especially where you got him. So now I'm going to talk about what was not good picks. Chris Carson, the first, that was actually okay. He's been hurt, but he's been really good when healthy. But then it gets pretty bad. Your fourth round in general was pretty atrocious. You drafted Daniel Jones, who right now is quarterback 26 on the season, which is kind of impressive because I'm pretty sure there's been at least 6 teams that have had to rotate through quarterbacks. So he's pretty horrible. He was the 6th quarterback taken off the board, so you took him before most quarterbacks. You also drafted Zach Ertz in the 4th round. He's right now tight end 30, which is really impressive considering how shit tight ends are in general. And then rounding out your 4th round was Courtland Sutton. Obviously he got hurt, so can't take all the blame on that one, but he is receiver 150th right now. Not too bad. Next kind of questionable pick was Phillip Rivers in the 7th round. He's quarterback 27, which impressively enough is even worse than Daniel Jones, despite the fact I think he's played every game. It's not like he's been hurt or anything. So pretty impressive. Daniel Jones and Phillip Rivers were the 2 quarterbacks that you decided to roll out there week 1. And then your last couple picks, actually, towards the end of the draft were solid. They're not on your team anymore. So you have DeAndre Swift in the 8th. Dropped him. Now he's helping Finley out, so that's great. Judy, the receiver, also on Finley's team. Pretty sure he just got him 24 points. You drafted Judy and dropped him. And then also Teddy Bridgewater, who's quarterback 11 right now. He's been helping Michael out quite a bit. And then also, just as kind of one last thing, next year you don't have a 1st, 3rd, or 6th round pick. And your first pick is a 2nd round pick, which is Finley's. So it's looking like towards the end of the draft. So good luck with that next year. That'll be fun. Next up, we have Cam, who is bizarre. He has the 2nd best record in the league at 6 and 3, but the 2nd worst points for. Kind of crazy. I mean, the big part of that is that he has the 2nd least points against, so he's gotten rather lucky there. But Cam, as it's been kind of well documented, you have some incredible ability to drop players that suddenly become very valuable. So I just thought I'd pick out kind of the main guys that you either traded or dropped, and just let you know how they are doing. So ever since you dropped T. Higgins, he's scored a total of 46.4 points, an average of about 15.5 per game. The Steelers' defense, since you dropped them, have scored a total of 48 points for an average of 12 points per game. You might remember you traded me A.J. Brown for Fitzgerald and a third-round pick. Good thing you got that third-round pick, because Fitz, well, he actually contributed 0 points for you since that trade. He did have 14 on your bench one week. Meanwhile, though, A.J. Brown, he's got me 78 points, which is an average of just under 20 per game. You also dropped Carson Wentz. Since then, he's averaged 21 points per game. Funny enough, you dropped Carson Wentz for Jamal Williams of the Green Bay Packers, but then you dropped Jamal Williams, and then shortly after that, Aaron Jones got hurt. So since you dropped Jamal Williams, he has averaged 17.3 points in the 2 games that the Packers have played since you did that drop. And then lastly, you dropped Chase Edmonds, and he has averaged 14 points per game since you dropped him. So in total, that's 296 points that you have, either kind of dropped or traded, which kind of sucks. And then lastly, Saquon Barkley, that got hurt again. That obviously is unfortunate. Fortunately, you do have Kamara, but you did trade, and this is kind of the insult to injury for all the other guys that you have dropped or traded, and then been productive, is that you did make kind of the one big trade, which acquired Kittle and Gaskins and a 2023 third-round pick. Kittle and Gaskins, I don't think they've played a single game for you or contributed a single point, which is just kind of typical based off how things have gone for you this year. All right, next up is yours truly. I have the third worst points for. My team is just kind of like remarkably average. So I only have 2 players that are in the top 10 at their respective positions, and that's excluding tight end, defense, and kicker, just because those don't really matter. The only other team that has 2 is Michael, but he also has Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley, who he traded some pretty substantial capital for. And I don't have Saquon or Christian McCaffrey. Basically, everyone else has at least 4. I think there's one team that had like 3 or something. Also, just kind of crazy is that I don't have a single player inside the top 8. I don't have a single quarterback, running back, or receiver that's inside the top 8. Considering this is only an 8-man league, that's kind of fucking ridiculous. But yeah, I do fortunately have the number 1 kicker in Young Ho. And then TJ Hawkinson somehow is the 3rd best tight end. Tight end's just kind of a joke this year. Yeah, I mean, my team is just like piss poor average. Like basically everyone just averages 10 points a game. I don't even know what's going on with Lamar. Yeah, kind of pathetic. Next up is Bobby. Bobby has the 4th worst points for. And it's really been a tale of 2 halves of the season. So Bobby is kind of well known. Your team was top heavy last year. You got really carried by Christian McCaffrey, Dak, and Amari Cooper. Unfortunately for you, all those guys got hurt this year. So you had an amazing start to the year. You started off 5-0. You were just absolutely shredding people. You averaged 164 points per game. You scored 820 points in those first 5 weeks. Since then, you have gone over 4. Your average has dropped to 104 points per game. In those 4 games, you only scored 418 points, so you're barely cracking triple digits. So 66% of your total points came in those first 5 weeks. And then, fortunately, you have Josh Allen. He's been incredible, but almost 20% of your total team points have come from Josh Allen, which is the second highest in our league. So next up is Michael. I don't really have a lot to say about Michael's team. Again, he traded away quite a bit of resources for CMC and Saquon. That'll probably pay off next year. Still, though, you're so lucky. It pisses me off. You had a couple weeks where Ronald Jones was, really incredible, and I don't know, just random fucking guys. You are above 500, just barely. Though out of all teams that are above 500, you have the largest negative point differential. So, like how are you at 5-4? That I don't know. Next up is Jacob. Jacob has probably had one of the most bizarre seasons I've seen since playing fantasy football. He has the third most points for, and yet he is 1-8. That is entirely because he has just a ridiculous points against. So he has 71 more points against than the next highest, which is Thomas. 71 points, that's more than Cam scored in an entire game. And then the difference between Jacob's points against and Finley, who has the lowest points against, is 322 points. So just, pretty remarkable. Similar to Bobby, your team is pretty dang top-heavy. Fortunately for you, though, your guys have stayed healthy for the most part. So Patrick Mahomes, again, he accounts for almost 20% of your total team points. But between Mahomes, Dalvin Cook, and Deshaun Watson, that is nearly 50% of your total points just from those three. And just to put that into perspective, those three have combined for 641 points, which is pretty close to 60% of both Andrew and Cam's total points for. So quite literally, those three guys are carrying you. So then next up is Thomas, the reigning champion, currently second in the league for points for. He also has the second highest points against him, which is the reason why he's 3-6. I just want to say you and Jacob are so lucky that it's a World Cup year. Because otherwise you guys would pretty much already be locks to be out of the playoffs. So you should be very thankful for that. I don't really have anything to say about your team, Thomas. You are, pretty loaded at each position. The trade for Michael Thomas, trade away of Michael Thomas will be interesting. He really could have been a nice, kind of consistent player for you, I think. Herbert, no doubt, will be good in the future, but hopefully the rest of your receivers can, keep up their level of play. Thielen's already kind of, fallen off. He had a really hot start. But, in general, your team's just solid. And then lastly, we have Nick Finley. I'm just going to chalk this up to beginner's luck and also the fantasy football gods just spiting Nick Hill. Because Finley, you have the highest points for by a pretty big chunk. You have the highest points for, the lowest points against. The difference between your points for and points against is 303 points, which is pretty ridiculous. You could essentially just not start anyone for like 2 games, and you would probably still have a positive differential. So I guess kudos to that. Also, kind of remarkably, you have 6 top 5 players at their respective positions. And then you also have 2 players at each position, minus tight end, that are in their top 7. And then you obviously have the number 1 tight end and Travis Kelce. So, quite literally, you have a top 5 guy at every position. And you actually have 2 top guys at quarterback, running back, and receiver. So that is pretty impressive. So I guess good job on a first year. We'll see if your luck runs out at some point in the playoffs. So I'm sure whoever does the recap next week will do a little bit more of a playoff preview. I'm going to get to the recaps here in a second, but I did just want to point out heading into week 10, last week of the regular season, me, Michael, and Bobby were all within 30 points of each other as far as points for. That's going to determine the seeding of 3 through 5. 4 through 6. 4 through 6. Unless something really horribly goes wrong for like me or Bobby, I don't think Cam or Andrew are going to jump into that range, and then something horrible would have to happen to Jacob's team for him to drop into the 4 through 6 range. So definitely something to keep an eye on. Is this week is going to be huge for specifically me, Michael, and Bobby as far as seeding goes. I know personally, I'd love to play Bobby's team. I do not want to be the 6th seed. So just keep an eye on that. I'm just going to breeze through the recap of this week real quick. I scored 158 points, one of my team's better overall performances. Jacob's team scored 144. Once again, Dalvin Cook just went nuclear, and then, of course, Mahomes is Mahomes. I came just shy of getting highest scorer. The man who did get high scorer was, once again, Nick Finley. He beat Andrew's team 159 to 116. It's tough. Finley's team is loaded, and he doesn't even have Nick Chubb or Joe Mixon healthy. So once he does, it's just going to be kind of ridiculous. The talent on his team. Andrew, your team had been kind of rising in the last weeks, but kind of a down game for you. Hopefully, your guys can bounce back. The next matchup was actually incredibly close, incredibly low scoring. Bobby's team with 111. He lost to Cam, who scored 114. I don't really have anything to say about that game. And then lastly, the heated rivalry was Michael defeating T-Bay 148 to 138. Whatever. So looking towards week 10. Shut up, Bo. Week 10 as a preview. I'm playing Andrew's team. Finley is playing Jacob's team. Thomas is playing Cam. And then actually a fun matchup will be Michael versus Bobby. It's likely that the winner of that game, obviously it'll depend, how much one wins versus the other, but it's likely the winner of that game is going to take home the 4 seed. So, should be a good one. I don't know if people have set their lineups, so I'm not even going to look at what sleepers' projections are, but we've got a big week 10 coming up, and then looking forward to the playoffs.